Welcome to Fast Phonics. My name is Jane and I'm part of the team at Fast Phonics. In this video, I'm going to be explaining tricky words, what they are, how to teach them, and why it's important that we highlight these words for children learning to read. Tricky words are words that are hard or impossible to decode with the grapheme-phoneme correspondences that children have learnt up to that point in their systematic synthetic phonics program. These are high-frequency words, which means that they appear often in books typical that children may be reading at this age, and also in the writing genres and styles that children regularly choose to write in. Here are the tricky words we teach in Phase 2. As, is, the, no, go, to, I, has, he, is, of, and see. You can see by the words in this list that these often appear in first-person recounts, a very popular genre for children of this age range, but they also appear in many of the first-person narratives we use for shared reading. These words appear often so you can understand why it is important to explicitly teach these words to support children learning to read. As children progress through their phonics learning journey, most of these words will become phonetically decodable, but during Phase 2, they need to be learned as tricky, high-frequency words. Teaching tricky words doesn't need to be tricky. In Fast Phonics, there are lots of fun games that help you to teach these tricky words. And it's important that these words are explicitly taught. We can point out to children the tricky part of the word and parts of the word that may be phonetically plausible. So, for example, in Peak 2, a tricky word that is taught is the word is. So children will know that the first grapheme, I, is phonetically plausible, but the second grapheme, the S, sounds different to the S that they've learnt to sound out at the beginning of words like Sam and sat. And so they learn that different sound and are taught to learn that the word is. And then they'll go on to learn the words as and his and has. Later in their phonics learning journey, they'll be learning alternative letter sounds. And at that point, they'll also learn that this letter S can make different sounds in words, as with these words. Let's look at some other examples of early tricky words. I is a word that children will often use in their writing. And with this example, they also need to learn that it is always written as a capital letter. Writing the word and then reading it back in their writing will help children to learn this tricky word. With the word go, pupils will be familiar with the first grapheme and the phoneme g. They will maybe have learnt to sound out words like got, but in the case of the word go, they'll see that the letter O is making a different sound, and so they need to learn go as a tricky word at this stage. Some tricky words have to be learnt as a complete tricky word, as in the example of the word the. Once the tricky word has been explicitly taught, it's time to practice tricky words to help put them into your pupils' lexical memory. Repetition using flashcards and quick games can also help to solidify tricky words in children's minds. Each peak includes printable flashcards for you to print, cut, and use in lots of fun ways. Another great strategy to support children in remembering tricky words is asking children to take a photo of the word in their mind as they see it, thinking about the letter formation and the shape helps them. A crucial component is decodable books. Decodable books will only contain the taught grapheme phoning correspondences taught to that point in the systematic synthetic phonics, as well as any tricky words. Looking at the inside front cover of the books to see a list of the tricky words covered in that decodable book. Always make sure that you've covered the listed grapheme phoning correspondences and the tricky words. Each Fast Phonics peak has up to 4 decodable readers. These are read throughout the peak. For additional support, these readers can be downloaded and printed for pupils to take home and practice reading. All the books are available in a mini book format to save on paper and printing. There are black and white versions, and these not only save ink but give children the opportunity to develop their fine and practice their fine motor skills at home, where they might like to colour in the books. Finally, the good news is that tricky words don't have to remain tricky. As children learn more grapheme phoning correspondences and learn alternative spellings, many tricky words become decodable. I hope this video has given you some ideas for teaching tricky words to your pupils.